This video was made possible by my patrons, and everyone who ever has donated to me, supported me, or given me any help. Thank you to everyone, and I hope you enjoy the video. And if you enjoyed, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell, share on Facebook, share on Twitter, share somewhere. Just share my content. Inertial Drift is a game that has a lot going on in its favor, and the things that it doesn't have just make me hope that it resonates enough to get a sequel. Released in September of 2020, Inertial Drift is a mix between Auto Model Lisa, a well-designed Sega arcade racing game, some Tokyo Extreme Racing, a touch of simulation racing games, a little bit of small studio charm, and a clear attention to detail in the design. The end result of this mix is an excellent game that feels good to play, look at, listen to, and improve lap times in. Inertial Drift has a really nice clean art style that is not only easy on the eyes, but often conveys useful information for how to tackle the track. Brake lights trail behind cars and ghosts when stopping, and the visual stays in place as the car continues onward. Drift marks are on the pavement, and they are highlighted in yellow. Parts of the track have markers to indicate good braking zones. And along with all this, there are a set of 4 short stories attached to 4 of the playable characters in the game. The story mode consists of an event, which can be one of the following: a time trial, a ghost battle, a one-on-one race, a duel mode, and as well as a style mode. Each track can be ran in reverse as well as in the standard direction. These are all just ways to encourage you to either get more involved in understanding and controlling the drift system, experience the utter defeat of not being able to keep up with a ghost, and the genuine satisfaction from beating an AI racer who cannot ram you off the road. Now, the game does have a smaller selection of cars compared to the latest Forza Turismo Need for Ubisoft game, but while each car doesn't exist in the real world with a matching real-world tire brand, they ooze charm in their design and handling. Few cars in the game handle similarly to each other, but they all feature similar skills to master and understand how they work. A player driving a smaller, lighter vehicle will have a much easier time popping out insanely controllable drifts, but not keeping insane speed. A player with a heavier vehicle might have to be more technical with their throttle or braking control along with their drifting. Speaking of drifting, let's talk about the controls. As with most racing games, you can steer, accelerate, brake, put the car in reverse, and turn on and off your headlights. Turning off your headlights is actually incredibly useful, and for me it helped me with seeing and interpreting the track. There is no gear shifting in this game, and every car is some sort of automatic, but this is almost irrelevant because of how the game is controlled. Unlike most racing games, the game is controlled with 2 analog sticks. I have no idea how the game controls with a keyboard, and I refuse to find out. But on a controller, you use 1 analog stick to change the direction of the steering wheel, and this can partially influence your turn. But unless you're coming from a simulation racing game, the turn radius at high speeds is insanely tight. Every car in this game understeers, and this is where the second analog stick comes in. It's kind of hard to place exactly what the second analog stick does, but from playing with multiple cars and reading as much of the game's dialogue as I could, I think the second stick is supposed to be a way to influence your inertia and momentum, which, lucky for us, is some of the coolest looking drifts in the entire video game history. The way that it made sense to me was to think of it like the Aftertouch from the Burnout series. You can use a combination of turns, high speeds, hitting the brakes, and releasing, then going back on the accelerator while holding on the inertial stick to initiate or control a drift. The order, timing, rhythm, and technique for controlling and initiating the drift can vary between cars in very subtle ways that would take entirely too long to get into detail here, but rest assured there are almost simulation racing game levels of thought put into this small roster of cars. One thing that may turn off a few people, but for me gave little influence in my enjoyment of the game, is the distinct lack of customization for cars. You can't really change the color or liveries of the car outside of multiplayer, Grand Tour Challenge, and other modes, and for those who enjoy tuning a car more than driving a car, there's absolutely nothing present. Personally, I am glad the devs went this way because I feel like it allows the differences and unique attributes of each car to shine very well. When the features of a car can't be changed, it prevents each car from feeling like exactly the same experience, and that made going through and playing the challenges and campaign feel very rewarding. As of the writing of this video, I have not completed the entire game, but I will say that while light on deep character development and completely bare of any stakes, the story features likable characters who face small but real challenges, and unlike other racing franchises that have to put movie-length unskippable cutscenes into their game about driving cars, Inertial Drift politely allows you to just skip the entire cutscene and jump straight to the race countdown. I really enjoyed a lot of the smaller design choices in this game, from prominently featuring a non-aggressive, non-headstrong black girl as a playable character, to the not-so-subtle Initial D references and genuinely cool and well-designed cars. The game has so much going for it. The audio design is tuned beautifully, and the options menu allows the volume of basically every type of sound in the game to be adjusted. The game also features one of the most pleasant soundtracks I have heard in a long time, featuring numerous earworms that will bounce in your ears as you drift around corners. The game doesn't feature any sort of boosting mechanics or items. The entire focus of races comes down to hitting good racing lines and taking turns at good apex points, which makes for a very raw yet accessible game in the racing genre. The game is not without its flaws and design choices that seem odd for within the genre, but in the context of the game, it makes sense. I don't think the flaws and things I'm about to mention are so big that they should make anyone avoid this game and the experience of playing it, but I do think they should be mentioned. First of all, there are no car collisions in this game. You can collide into a wall, spin out, and get slowed to a snail pace by going off the road, but the possibility of miscalculating a drift and ramming into your opponent is completely removed. Some Forza players will not be able to get ahead online because of this, but this leads me to the biggest weakness for the game. It really lacks a feature-rich online experience. You can race one other player, but just like in the campaign, Grand Prix, and challenges, you will never race more than one opponent. You might race 2 ghosts at once, your own and your opponent's, but you can't download ghosts from the leaderboards, and besides playing to unlock the rest of the vehicles, there really isn't a lot here. I didn't really bother trying online matches, but from what I saw in the official Discord for Inertial Drift, people do look for games, so you might have a better chance of enjoying the online than I did. But personally, I would prefer to hide my embarrassing runs among 3 or 4 players instead of just one player seeing how poorly I take a racing line. Also worth mentioning, but this game has some serious difficulty spikes, and realizing you're 15 seconds off bronze times for a time trial can feel pretty exhausting. But there is a practice option to allow you to do infinite laps for every stage in the game, so your difficulty really comes down to how well you decide to learn the tracks. Throughout playing the game, I noticed the tracks can be fairly long, some of them lasting up to 5 minutes for a 3-lap loop. Personally, I found this to be comfy and nice, but for other people this might be a turnoff. But for me, seeing Ada, the resident black girl of the game, doing well, not suffering extensively, and just enjoying her hobby was really nice, and it made the story a nice little side snack to the main course that is the gameplay of Inertial Drift. Overall, Inertial Drift basically does everything right, and if my opinions have piqued your interest in the game, you should definitely check out the demo available, Sunset Prologue. Other than that, I am genuinely hoping this game gets a sequel because it is a wonderful experience that I plan on returning to over the course of this year. Excessively special thank you to my patrons. You are far too patient with me. Sincere and genuine thank you to Alex Alawi, Andrew Jewell, Aster, Ava Fox, BB01OG, Benaya Mischenko, Bren, Q Bridges' girlfriend, Imani, Jay Jorts, Lily Kane, Natalie A, Nova, Noel, Rain, Ripley Davidson, Reimer, Sam Collar, Samuel Hirsink, Chooch, and Tiasvara. Thank you to everyone, and I can't wait to see you next time.